So our tomato seedlings are going from this planted into trays, from this planted up into pots, to this one over here planted in the ground. And all of it's really easy to do. We'll show you how. First of all, from seedling trays like this into pots where you grow them on like this, we're using a normal potting mix with a little bit of blood and bone and a little bit of pelletised mixed through. Before you remove the seedlings from the tray, make sure that you fill up your pots to about 1/2 to 3/4 deep. If your seedlings happen to be one to a cell, it's fairly easy, but often they're not, they're two. So you can start by pushing up on the bottom like that, and that should pop the seedlings up. Grab the seedlings down by the base, lift them out like that, and now you need to separate them. Before you separate them, you can snip off some of these lower leaves, because one of the things that we'll be doing is planting these tomatoes quite deeply. Instead of planting them at this level, we'll have soil up to about here. We do hear a lot about tomato seedlings being difficult to separate. Well, we don't think that they are. Just get right down to the bottom, wiggle them around, and there you have your two seedlings. The thing that you need to do now is to quickly get them into the containers. So there's our first seedling sitting in the middle of the container. What we need to do now is to backfill around it. If you've been watching our videos, you'll know that we like to use a watering wand. It gives a softer flow of water. We'll give these a really good soaking. Run the watering wand over once, let the water soak in, water them again, let the water soak in, and then water a third time. Our seedlings are going to sit in here with some that we prepared earlier, and they're in part shade, so they'll grow on fairly quickly. All of these seedlings were planted at the same time. These are the first ones that we transplanted into these pots, and you can see they're putting on really good growth. These are done a little bit later on, so you can see the growth isn't nearly as good. So when you're transplanting your seedlings, transplant them as soon as they're big enough to handle. This is the seedling that we're transplanting. It's Periform abruzzae. You can see that we've already dug a hole and it's quite big. The reason for this is that if the soil around the plant is nice and loose, then the roots from the plant, when you transplant it, will grow out into the soil much more easily. You'll see the soil is also damp, and we watered the soil the day before. The first thing we're going to do is just to pinch off these lower leaves, because we like to plant our tomato seedlings fairly deep. More roots will form on the stem, and that'll give it a stronger root system and therefore better growth. So this is our seedling. You can see the root system, nice white roots, it's nice and healthy, down into the planting hole. Now we're ready to backfill. But what we're backfilling with is this soil here. Now this soil is the very soil that we dug out of the hole, but you'll see little white specks in there. That's some bone meal or blood and bone fertiliser. There's also a little slow release organic fertiliser in there with it to give this plant a kickstart. So it's simply a matter now of backfilling around the plant. Now that it's planted, and you can see it's planted deeply, we'll snip off this lower leaf here, and the next thing to do is to water the plant in well and to mulch around it. When you're watering your plants in, or when you're watering them at all, we recommend you use one of these, which is a watering wand. It gives a softer flow of water and therefore doesn't disturb your plants as much. So the plant's well watered. Next is mulch. We're using a sugarcane mulch. So we're taking a good layer of mulch, putting it around the plant, and we're putting it out a fair distance from the plant as well. Once you've done that, we need to water it again because the mulch is fairly dry. And yes, we've already got a stake in because this is an indeterminate type tomato, which means it's going to grow right up to the top of this one. We've got more links to other videos on growing tomatoes, including such topics as tomato pollination, staking tomatoes, pruning tomatoes, general tomato care, and much, much more. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for regular updates on a whole range of vegetables and indeed a whole range of garden plants.